What's up, nerds? Thanks for tuning in. Make sure that you guys smash the like button, leave me a comment if you like this episode, and definitely hit the subscribe. We need all the support that we can get, and this show doesn't exist. My company doesn't exist. None of the things that we want to do in the future with movies and television shows and audio dramas and stuff like that happens unless you guys support us. So we want to share all of our amazing stories with you. We have a ton of them that are brewing. Make sure that you subscribe so that you get access to all of that content as it comes out and to keep listening to me be a nerd. So today I want to continue on my Batman kick. And after doing my review of the Batman, the Matt Reeves movie that just came out starring Robert Pattinson, I felt the need to talk about the Robins because there is a lot of rumors floating around that the next movie in the Matt Reeves Batman universe could feature a Robin coming into play and that Timothée Chalamet might be cast as that Robin. And so a lot of people are wondering where this Robin would sort of pick up at. Are we going to go straight in with Dick Grayson or what other Robin? And there are some people that just like, well, Robin's Robin, right? Well, no, there's actually 4 of them, and I'm going to break down each and every one of them for you guys so that you understand who they are and how they make their appearances in certain context in the Batman universe if the writers and directors are sticking with canon. Looking at you, Christopher Nolan. What the crap? So, the first Robin that pops up... Oh, I should mention, before I get into the first Robin, I'm going to talk a little bit about a bonus character at the end of this, because I like to, and they are a very cool character. So, make sure that you stick around to the end of the episode if you want to know what character I am going to be talking about. The first Robin was a guy named Dick Grayson. Dick Grayson, full name is Richard Grayson, is the first Robin and goes on to become a character called Nightwing. He is the first leader of the Teen Titans whenever he decides to take a step away from being with Batman all the time, but still sort of needs a team, not ready to strike it out on his own yet. Dick first becomes Robin whenever Batman, Bruce Wayne, makes him his ward after his parents die because of a tragic accident in one of the movies. They had Two-Face kill him. This is, not exactly canonical. That story changes, but in a tragic accident, there is the death of the Flying Graysons, an acrobatic circus troupe. So this is where Dick gets all of his acrobatic flurry from, and it's also where he sort of gets from the circus side of things. It's where he gets his charming personality. One of the biggest things that you'll recognize about Dick in almost every iteration of him is that he is very charming and very suave. However, he wasn't always like this. Immediately after the death of his parents, Bruce sort of takes Dick in because Dick wants to go on a killing spree to try and get back at those who caused his parents' accident or caused his parents' deaths. He's convinced that someone caused it. And almost in every iteration there is, whether it's the Falcone crime family or whether it's Two-Face or whether it's Joker or whoever, like there is some villain that causes the death of the Flying Graysons. Now, keep the death of the Flying Graysons in your mind because it's going to play into one of the other Robins coming up in a second. The reason why Batman needed Dick and why he needed Dick to be suave and sort of charming and boyish in a way is because Bruce, at the time that he pulls Dick into the Bat family, is still in a very dark place. He's in a very, very dark place, and I touched on this in my review of the Batman. This is the same place that we find Robert Pattinson's Batman in the newest movie. He is young. He's only been going at the crime-fighting thing for a very short time, about 2 years. He's still kind of bad at it. He's still trying to figure out his real motivations for it all, and he's still trying to deal with the rage that is inside of him because of his parents' deaths, and helping Dick with his own loss, helping Dick with his own problems, and helping him figure out his way through the maze of rage and loss and sadness is one of the things that is almost therapeutic for Bruce because he's a little bit ahead of the curve and he's made some mistakes along the way, and he's trying to help Dick avoid these things. Now, eventually, whenever Dick either goes off to be with the Teen Titans or shortly after Dick leaves the Teen Titans and becomes Nightwing and takes on his full solo career in a suburb of Gotham called Bloodhaven, he does this because he sees that Bruce sort of needs help. And one of the reasons why Bruce needs help is because he has none from a Robin. He's sort of an empty nester again. He's lost that ray of sunshine that kept him from slipping fully into the darkness. And so Dick is like, okay, I can't be Robin. I don't want to be under your wing anymore. I'm too old for this. I know what I'm doing, and I need to be able to step away whenever you don't need me. However, you do still need me. There are some fights that you can't face alone, and so I'm going to be here for you. In that sort of same time period, we meet our second Robin. After Dick leaves, Batman one day comes around and finds that the security alarm on the Batmobile has been disabled and the wheels are being stolen off of it by another young orphan kid who is being a criminal, and that is a guy named Jason Todd. Now, Jason has a very dark side. He doesn't understand Bruce's code of honor. He doesn't understand the idea why they can't just kill the criminals. If they keep escaping, if they keep doing these things, like, he's very realistic in certain facets, but also sort of twisted in his own way, where he is like, we should just rid the world of them. He doesn't understand that that doesn't help anything because you become the very thing that you're fighting. Eventually, Bruce works some magic on Jason, and Jason starts to see the light. And right around this time, Jason's mother, who isn't dead, he's orphaned and he's being a criminal, he's whatever, but his parents aren't dead. I forget exactly where his mom is at the time that he's stealing the wheels off the Batmobile. Maybe he ran away or something. You guys can correct me on that part in the comments. His mother gets in trouble in the Middle East, and he goes out to try and help her. But the Joker, also leaving Gotham, goes out to the Middle East area and is involved in some arms deals that Jason is trying to track down. In the process of this, Jason gets captured by the Joker. And this is important because you have to understand a little bit of one of the Joker's backstories. And I'll get to that in a second. The Joker backstory in a second. The Joker proceeds to brutally, like creepily, beat the ever-living Dickens out of Jason Todd. And no, I don't mean that as a pun with Dick Grayson. Like he beats the snot out of Jason. It is one of the trippiest and most evil things that we see the Joker do, because there's no remorse, nothing. He's left Jason bleeding, and in a way we're thinking that he's going to die unless Batman gets there. And right as Batman is about to get to this warehouse that Jason's being just absolutely destroyed in, the building blows up, and Batman believes that Jason is dead. Now, I can't remember exactly how Jason gets out of that. I can't remember if he escaped or if the explosion didn't kill him, or I'm pretty sure that in one iteration, Batman actually carries his body out of the wreckage. At some point, though, Jason comes back, whether by the use of a Lazarus pit, which is, if you don't know, that's this pit that brings you back to life, like Lazarus from the Bible. It was used by Ra's al Ghul to live for 600 years and establish the League of Shadows. Eventually, Jason comes back down the road. And this is where I need to take a break from Jason's story, because even though Jason's story is not over, Tim Drake comes into the picture. Tim Drake was a toddler, and he was at the Flying Graysons performance when the Flying Graysons died. So Dick and Tim have met before, and Dick actually took a liking to Tim. And over the course of his childhood, Tim is actually a genius. He is, if out of everyone that can be, Tim is the true successor to the Batman cowl, because the thing that made the Batman in the early days of the Batman was the fact that the Batman was the world's best detective. It is literally why DC Comics is called DC Comics today. DC stands for Detective Comics, which were the first series of comic books that Batman showed up in. And even though everyone loved Superman at the time, Batman, since the 50s and 60s, has stolen the show. He sold more copies than Superman could possibly dream of selling. Part of that has to do with the mature, dark, and sort of gritty, real nature that Batman touches on in a very stark way. Tim Drake follows the dynamic duo of Bruce with Dick and then Bruce with Jason all the way through. Eventually, Tim helps Dick solve a murder or a crime or something, and convinces Dick to help him convince Bruce to let him become Robin. Now, here's the reason why Bruce needs convincing, is because this is only 6 months after the death of Jason Todd. Batman, Bruce Wayne, is distraught. He's going berserk. He's back to the early days before he met Dick, and Dick is now too old and out on his own to be able to do anything about it. Tim Drake is convinced that Nightwing is not the only help that Batman needs, that Batman needs a Robin. to stay out of the darkness. With Dick, it was how he came out of the darkness in the first place. With Jason, it's how he preserved the light that Dick had put in him by helping someone else out of the darkness yet again. So with Dick, it was a joint journey. They were getting out of the darkness together. With Jason, he was trying to save Jason out of the darkness. And then with Tim, we are back to the days of Tim trying to save Batman, trying to keep him from going too far. Through the time that Batman is spending with Tim, a character pops up named the Red Hood. The Red Hood is actually an homage to one of the origin stories of the Joker. The Joker was supposedly this comedian that couldn't get anybody to laugh. Eventually, he has a kid with his wife. His wife leaves him, and I think is killed by the mob at one point. He tries to do a job for the mob in order to make enough money to help provide for his wife. That's what it was. His wife leaves him because he doesn't have any money, and so he starts doing jobs for the mob. And one of the jobs is that he's going to go into Ace Chemicals wearing this red hood. And in the course of doing that, he gets pushed into a vat of acid, and that's what stains his skin and hair the color that it is. So the Red Hood is an homage back to the Joker, where canonically it's supposed to be this hint as to the person that killed Jason, because the Red Hood is Jason, and the Red Hood is going around shooting criminals. He is a criminal vigilante that goes around murdering criminals. And it's up to Batman to stop him. And the revelation that Jason is who he is to Bruce floors him, because at the point that Jason comes back into this thing, it's almost 6 years after Jason's death. And Tim has been with Batman for almost that 6 years. So Tim's actually getting a little bit older at that point. When Tim's time ends, Bruce isn't quite ready to give up the cowl yet. He's getting older, but he's not quite there. But he is wiser. And with the reemergence of Jason and seeing that Bruce's abandonment of Jason, or perceived abandonment of Jason by taking on a new Robin very quickly after Jason's perceived death, that's one of the things that sends Jason over the edge to become the Red Hood, to abandon the code, to start killing criminals, and eventually to try and go after the Batman himself and kill the Batman, because he now perceives the Batman as a criminal in his own way, saying that he's not good enough, that he's just as much a criminal because he keeps letting the criminals live. Sort of a twisted psychology there. The last Robin is weird, and he just screams ego. And in the newest set of animated movies, the last Robin has probably one of the coolest character development arcs of any character I've seen in a good long time. And that is Damian Wayne, Bruce's son. Now, there are a couple different stories to this. There is the story where Bruce and Talia al Ghul, Ra's al Ghul's daughter, end up having a one-night stand in Metropolis. Everyone sort of knows that Batman's true love in this whole thing is Selina Kyle, Catwoman. And the reason for that is because Talia always, no matter what the storyline, betrays Bruce and subsequently ends up dying because of it. But at one point, Batman fell in love with Talia, whose father is Ra's al Ghul. And the reason why Ra's keeps wanting the Batman to stay alive is because he wants Bruce to inherit the League of Shadows. He's just waiting for Bruce to snap, which almost happens after Jason's death. And I think that it might have been in that period of sort of madness and rage that Batman, sort of forgets his morality a little bit or not his morality, but forgets his honor a little bit and ends up sleeping with Talia. Now, in certain timelines, Talia drugs him to get him into bed. In other ones, it's completely consensual. In other ones, Talia steals his DNA and then uses his DNA to clone him to make Damian. Either way, one way or another, Damian is the son of Bruce Wayne and Talia al Ghul, Batman playboy billionaire, and the daughter of a psychotic league of assassins. Eventually, the League of Shadows gets raided, or for whatever reason, in certain storylines, in like the movie storylines, the League of Assassins gets raided, and so they have to put Damian with Bruce. In other storylines, in the comic book storylines, Damian was actually bred to kill Bruce from the inside, then take the cowl and lead the League of Assassins as Batman from the inside, being almost a direct clone of Bruce himself. Damian forgets that mission and ends up falling in love with his father, turns against the League of Shadows. But the kid is some really weird mix between the acrobatic fighting skills of Dick Grayson, who is the best fighter out of all of them, the detective intelligence of Tim Drake and his own father, Bruce, and just the ferociousness of Jason Todd, because he has that League of Shadows mentality of, very similar to Jason, that criminals should be killed, and that Bruce once again has to break yet another Robin of this notion. Damian doesn't have a story arc as a grown-up. We've never seen a story told as to what happens to Damian when his father ages out. We never get to see who takes on the cowl after that. Everything sort of stops so far with Damian. I'm really curious to see what happens with that. I'm really curious to see if someone is willing to tell that story. From a deductive perspective, for the Matt Reeves universe, we can tell that it's not going to be Damian or Tim Drake that is going to join up with Batman, and they would need to do a pretty significant time jump to make it Jason Todd from where they're at in the next movie. If they pick up pretty much right where they left off, they would need to do a time jump for Jason Todd to make sense, because they would have to go all the way through Dick Grayson. So I'm assuming that if any of these rumors are true, that there is going to be a Robin, and even if Timothée Chalamet is the one that is cast for it, that it's going to be Dick Grayson that we see. However, because of creative license, they can write any one of these characters and say that the others don't exist for those movies. It's one of the crazy things about all of this. But because of the belovedness of all four of these Robins, we are guaranteed to see one of the four. I highly doubt that they are going to try and introduce a brand new Robin character like they did in the Nolan verse, where it was some type of weird amalgamation, but it was never really Robin. It was just his middle name was Robin, and the whole thing was sort of a reference back to both Tim Drake being a detective and Dick Grayson because his name was Rick or something like that, and it was just weird. That has to probably be my biggest qualm with The Dark Knight Rises. Moving on, we are finally at the part where you get to get the bonus character that I want to talk about. And the reason why I want to talk about this character is because it's from one of my favorite stories, and that is The Killing Joke. The Killing Joke is a story about how the Joker believes that he can twist anyone's psyche with one bad day. He's trying to prove to himself. We also get an origin story for the Joker in The Killing Joke for one of the first definitive origin story. That's where he has the Red Hood and Ace Chemicals and all of that. The way that the Joker tries to prove this is he takes Batman's light side alter ego. I shouldn't say alter ego, his light side equivalent, which is Jim Gordon, right? The light knight and the dark knight is the cop that operates during the day and still does some stuff at night and talks to Batman and stuff like that. But he's the one that acts in the light while Batman acts in the shadows. He kidnaps Jim Gordon and subjects him to horrible torture by making him look at pictures of his daughter naked and bleeding. And this is where I want to get into the character that I want to talk about. It's not actually Jim Gordon. It's his daughter. It's Barbara. Barbara Gordon, the first Batgirl, is wonderful because she not only wears the mantle of the Batgirl, where she does a Robin-esque thing with Batman for a little while, but after Batman sort of shuns her, the Joker comes in, shoots her through the spine, leaves her for dead, kind of, after taking a bunch of pictures of her naked, then kidnaps her dad, and then subjects her dad to horrible psychological trauma, trying to prove that all it takes is one bad day. And at the end of this whole thing, he's trying to get Bruce, Batman, to kill him at the same time. He's trying to prove that Batman is corruptible and will forsake his main rule of not killing, and that he can corrupt Jim Gordon into being just like him. And the greatest part about this is that it shows the Joker's flaw, that he actually does not understand Gordon or Batman at all, because he fails both times. Barbara is so interesting and cool because in the comics, she is actually the very first hacking character that we see. It's one of the reasons why they chose to give her a tragic story, beyond just telling one of the best Batman stories ever told. But they also give us our first hacker. Her job becomes this information informant who sits in what is known as the Watchtower. It's a clock tower in Gotham City that is decked out with the best surveillance, camera, tech crap you can name. And she feeds Batman info, unlocks secret doors, all sorts of cool crap, and becomes this quintessential clutch piece that Batman and the Robins get to use anytime that they need a little bit of unseen help, a little boost. I really hope that they give us more time with Oracle. They haven't used her a whole lot in the most recent stuff, especially with the live actions. I would love to see Barbara Gordon as Oracle in the live actions, whether they give her the same background or not, whether she was Batgirl or not. I really hope that you guys enjoyed this. This has been your crash course into the Bat fam, specifically with the Robins and also with Batgirl/Oracle Barbara Gordon. If you guys have any questions or comments, if you guys want me to do a follow-up episode with more Batman characters, mainly villains, I'm thinking about doing a villains episode. If you think that that would be cool, drop a comment, make sure that you leave a like and subscribe for all of the new content coming out. Otherwise, I will see you guys in the next one. Beat it, nerds.